Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Paula, and on this platform we discuss about designer fashion, luxury and lifestyle, but in a more practical and sensible way every Monday and Thursday. Today, let's talk about Vestiaire Collective and the good, bad and the ugly based on my personal experience. Maybe we should start by talking what is Vestiaire Collective. It is probably the biggest platform in Europe for pre-owned luxury items, but also contemporary brands. And I've seen some like Zara items there as well. So I would say like the biggest platform for pre-owned items. On that platform, the majority of people are private sellers and buyers. So private people such as myself can list my own item, pre-owned item, on that platform for someone to buy. And the platform kind of mediates in between with the money and the shipping and all of that. So basically, I don't need to hassle with another individual person, probably in another country, with all like bank accounts and all of these, like how to transfer money. Vestiaire is in between to mediate all of this. But there are also professional sellers on that platform, which means that they are businesses who are on the market, who are selling pre-owned items. Most likely they have additional like online sites or stores somewhere around the world, and they have also listed their items on that platform. It is a French company, and it started basically in Europe, but now I think that they do also have offices in Shanghai and New York City. I might be completely off, but I think they do have like bigger operations also in Asia and in the US. What the primary logic of that platform is, especially from a buyer's perspective, which we are mostly going to focus on this video, how to buy and what to know, what to avoid, what to look at as a buyer. But basically, I can scroll around the site, find something I like. There is a button where you can try to negotiate the price. Some sellers might have this turned off if they don't want any offers. But if it is active, you can try to negotiate the price. Once you are both happy with that price, you can buy the item. And the traditional way is that the seller will ship that item to Vestiaire Collective, and they are gonna do this authentication. Let's get back to the authentication a bit later in this video. But they are gonna check if the item is authentic and if it is matching the description and the photos that was listed on the site. Once all is cleared, Vestiaire will ship the item to the buyer. And at that point, Vestiaire will release the payment to the seller, pretty much. There are some additional ways as well. There is direct shipping, for instance, which means that the seller can ship the item directly to you and there is no one authenticating it in the middle. Or then it might already be in Vestiaire's possession. So when you have a listing, you can see where it is located. If Vestiaire Collective have it already in their own storage, then it will obviously be shipped to you directly. And usually that means that they have authenticated it at that point. So when it comes to my own personal shopping experiences, also selling experiences through Vestiaire, and I think I should start by saying that I have been using Vestiaire Collective for over 5 years, I would say so. Yeah, something like that. So quite many years. And I have seen that they have actually gone quite a long way during that time, because when I purchased my first item from there, it took over a month from when I purchased it to when I got it, because it was such a slow like shipping process all around in general. And at that time, Vestiaire Collective also allowed the seller very long time frame in within they needed to ship it to be able to kind of make the sale. And I think it was like a month or something like that. So in case the seller was actually super lazy, it could have taken a very long time before the buyer got the item. So during these 5 years or so, the processes have been streamlined and the time frames have become shorter. So nowadays, the seller needs to ship the item within 7 days, at least in Europe. This might be different in different continents. But as I live in Europe, I think I'm gonna only focus on Europe because that's where I have the experience from. So the seller needs to ship it within 7 days, and if they don't, then the purchase is out and they won't get the money and all of that. So now it is a lot like faster. And obviously with this direct shipping possibility, that makes it faster because then you can get the item directly from the seller if you dare to. So when it comes to my own experiences with both buying and selling on the platform, and there are so many horror stories online which I believe to be true. Luckily, I have only had positive experiences on that platform, and I have used it for handbags, shoes, and accessories. And for me, basically, all the items I have bought have matched the item description and the photos on the advertisement. I have not received any fakes. Let's get back to authentication a bit later on. But I haven't received any fakes. There has been a couple of times where Vestiaire Collective have contacted me to let me know that the item is either missing something that was described, let's say box, dust bags, receipts, or that the item doesn't match with the description. So in some cases it have been like wrong measurements, or that it hasn't actually been in such a good condition as the seller has listed it in. So Vestiaire Collective has contacted me and asked what do I think, and basically given me the choice to either cancel the sale or then provided me with additional discount based on how they examined what the condition is. So basically, from my point of view, the whole process at Vestiaire Collective has worked for me, which I'm very lucky for. But that being said, I have heard of many stories of Vestiaire Collective. Some are quite the opposite of my personal experience. And with that said, there is always a risk when buying pre-owned items. And that is something that all of us who are purchasing pre-owned items need to realize and also contemplate. What is the risk that we are willing to take with these items, for instance, and how familiar we are with anything, pretty much, how comfortable we are. On Vestiaire Collective, the lowest threshold is to buy from professional sellers. It doesn't automatically mean that if someone is a professional seller that the item is 100% authentic, even though they have like a business behind it, because obviously there are fakes out there. But with professional sellers, you can return the items without any specific reasoning. So basically, if you purchase from a private person, the only way you can return it if it ends up being fake. But from a professional seller, you can actually return it if you just don't like it. So the lowest threshold is to purchase from professional sellers. But the thing with professional sellers is that usually they ask for a bit higher price point because, I mean, it's a business for them and they are not that eager to negotiate the price. So this is just something to know. And I'm not saying that professional sellers wouldn't negotiate. They are usually not as eager to negotiate as private sellers who might just kind of want to get rid of the thing at some point. If you have ever been on the platform, you might have seen that there are these different badges on the seller's profile. If they say fashion activist, that means that they themselves are also purchasing from the platform. But as a buyer, you might want to look at the badges called trusted seller and expert seller. And how the process with those badges goes, that you get on a level of a certain badge once you have actually been active on the platform, sold a specific amount of items within the correct time frame. They have matched the item description, they haven't been fake. So basically that there hasn't been any issues reported of those items. And I mean, no one has complained. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that there couldn't have been fakes. It just means that the fakes haven't been caught, pretty much. But basically, if someone has this type of badge, they are quite active on the platform selling, and there hasn't been complaints before. And once that person or once that seller stops being active, they lose those badges. And that's what has happened to me. So at one point, I've had trusted seller badge and expert seller badge when I was like cleaning my closets and just like, okay, I just want to get rid of the stuff I don't use. So I've listed them there and been active. So I've received those badges. I'm not really sure how much they have helped me with my following sales on there, if I've had them or if I haven't. But I don't have them anymore because I haven't sold anything in a while. So, but yeah, that's just about the badges, because those are quite visible. Quite many sellers have them. But if someone doesn't, it doesn't mean that they are selling fakes or that they are selling lesser valued products. It just means that they haven't been as active recently as the ones who have the badges. Now let's talk a bit about the authentication of Vestiaire Collective. I'm not sure how I feel about it, because I think there are enough incidences that I personally know of where a fake has passed their authentication. And as the business with Vestiaire Collective, it is actually like humongous right now. One could question, where do they get these authentication professionals? Are they truly professionals? How are they trained? Like, how do they know if the items are authentic or if they are not? I don't know. And probably that's like the biggest question mark on where does this authentication come from. I do believe that like in the previous years, when they weren't as big as they are now, they probably had more like trained authenticators. But now that the business has bloomed, I'm just like, where do they get these authenticators? And how are they trained? How do we know that they are professional authenticators and not just like a person hired by Vestiaire to authenticate based on what? Photos? Googling? How do they authenticate? I don't know. And because of this like question mark, I personally re-authenticate all handbags I get or buy from the platform. I have listed in the description box the service I use to re-authenticate my items. And as mentioned before, I have never received a fake item through Vestiaire Collective. I've been lucky enough. Or then I haven't really been looking at the most faked items on there. Let's talk a bit more about this later. But yeah, so re-authenticating handbags gives me like the reassurance of buying from there. I have bought, for instance, shoes as well. And with the shoes, I do not re-authenticate them. I usually don't even send them to Vestiaire Collective to be authenticated. I usually just direct ship them to me. And this might be me being naive or whatever, but because I'm not in there to look for the orange sandals or Chanel shoes or like something that are super popular and hyped. The shoes that I have bought from Vestiaire Collective have been like Jimmy Choo or something like that. And yeah, I have bought my Chanel ballerina flats from there. Yeah, saying one thing and then doing actually the opposite right there. But I just feel comfortable enough with the shoes I have purchased that I haven't authenticated them. And someone might be cringing right now and thinking that I should be doing things differently, but that's just how I do it, pretty much. It's only the handbags that I re-authenticate. And obviously, using the direct shipping in this instance, Vestiaire Collective is not even there to do any type of middle check. So I use direct shipping only for professional sellers when I'm buying like handbags from them. I haven't bought anything else from professional sellers than handbags. So yeah, I use it when I buy handbags from professional sellers, so that then I can just re-authenticate it at home. And if it turns out to be fake, I can send it back and there is no hassle about that. Or then with like shoes. So I don't use direct shipping for handbags when I'm buying them from a private seller, because I kind of want Vestiaire Collective to even check that the item matches the description. The authenticity I can then look at myself, but actually like doing all the small things with the pictures and the listing and what the item actually is, that I want Vestiaire to do anyway. So I would say that's the first part of the video was kind of the good of Vestiaire Collective based on my own experience. And I don't think I can highlight it enough that everyone should do their own research always when it is about pre-owned items. And you need to be sure if you are comfortable in buying it not from the boutique, pretty much. So next, let's look at some like tips and learnings that I have managed to gather and how I basically operate on that platform. So when it comes for paying, first of all, I always use either a credit card or then an afterpay service such as Klarna, where I get an invoice, which I can then pay once I have received the item. So I'm not talking about like part payments. I'm talking about an actual just like invoice, so that I don't need to part with my money until I've actually received it and made sure it is what it is supposed to be. But the reason why I would advise you to use these type of like credit card companies or then Klarna or similar is because in case it turns out to be fake, you have a bigger company behind you who will then take care of all the processes when it comes to an item being fake, so that you're not alone dealing with that. Second tip would be to ask more photos, ask for questions from the seller. So there is a like open comment section as well as a private chat. And to be honest, I'm not really sure why you need both, but maybe someone needs both, I don't know. But basically just write down, ask for photos, more photos of like certain angle or whatever, or then ask for some more information. It's very common that I ask for like strap measurements because I'm a tall person, and if they haven't written it somewhere, I really need to know how long the strap is to actually figure out if it works for me or not. Or with shoes, I do ask for the insole length so that I can actually imagine if my foot will fit in or not, because the shoe sizes can vary based on the brand. So this is just more like for me to know what am I looking for, if it is going to fit me or not. And if the seller doesn't reply to that, I'm not saying it's a concern, but it's something to think about, why they are not replying to you. And for me, I lose interest a bit when they don't reply. I mean, it might be that they've missed it, sure. But it's just kind of like, if I see especially like many comments on the open comment section where the seller hasn't replied anything, I'm kind of over it and trying to look for another alternative for what I was looking for in the first place. I think this is like really clear thing, and probably everyone would try to do it, but if the negotiation button is available, try to negotiate on the price. It usually makes me feel at least a bit better if I get something out of whatever they were asking. And I don't know how other sellers, like, their mindset is, but when I am selling, I usually pump up the price first to like higher than what I'm expecting to get, so that there is some wiggle room for negotiations, because I know as a buyer, I enjoy if the seller like is willing to negotiate a bit. So I just calculated to the price that I'm asking, that there is this kind of negotiating room, so that I'm still happy with the price that I get, and then maybe the buyer is also happy because they got something off it. So definitely try to negotiate, because it always makes it feel a bit better if you got some discount. And I probably said it a couple of times on this video, but this is like, it needs to be highlighted here, that there is always a risk with pre-owned. It doesn't matter which platform it is. Is it like Facebook Marketplace or like Facebook group? Is it local flea market? Is it Vestiaire Collective? Is it Fashion File or whatever? There is always a risk with pre-owned. So I think everyone needs to be aware of that and basically do your own research. And one thing to keep in mind, that Vestiaire Collective keeps the seller accountable only of the things that are written in the description box. And this means that if they have photographed the item with dust bag or box or, I don't know, a receipt, but they haven't written it in the description box, and then the seller doesn't ship it with whatever was on the photo, Vestiaire Collective doesn't care, because they are kind of like, the only thing that matters is what is written in the description box, and whatever, if the photo says that there is a dust bag, or photo shows that there's a dust bag but they haven't written it, Vestiaire Collective doesn't care. So if you want to be sure about this, so you see that it is photographed with a box or something, but it's not written there, you can always write a comment and ask, will this be shipped with a box, dust bag, invoice, shopping bag, whatever you are after. And in general, if there is no mentioning of anything, not even in the photos, you can still ask what comes with the purchase. Like, do you have anything left? And like, personally, I see so many items there that have been listed as never used or never used with tags, and then they don't have anything with it. They might have a dust bag, but they don't have anything. Not the box, not the receipt. And it's kind of like, who is that person who can purchase a designer bag, for instance, not use it at all, and yet manage to lose everything that came with the bag? I mean, I guess someone might be so lazy, for instance, that they don't really care and they throw them out, or they don't really bother to look for them from their home or something. But it's kind of like a question mark to me, like, what type of people operate like that? That you have a designer bag that has been never used before, you've bought it in a couple of months, and you've lost everything. So, but this might be just my opinion, and I don't mean to insult if there is actually someone who does this, and it doesn't mean that all of them are fake, but it's just something that I wonder, and it just came to my mind when I was talking about this description versus photo thing. So just ask what comes with the bag if it is unclear to you. Now let's move to the bad section of Vestiaire Collective. And I think the biggest bad thing about the platform is that there are fakes. There are so many fakes, and I think the amount of fakes are just increasing all the time. And I think the old saying of if it seems too good to be true, it probably is valid here as well. Like, look at the prices, compare to other pre-owned sites, see if the price matches. Look at the photos, try to compare with an authentic one. So maybe go on YouTube, look at the item itself if someone has close-ups, or Google or whatever. And like, there are these super fakes, which is really scary, by the way, because there are some authenticators who are already admitting that it might be that they won't see the difference. So yeah, I would truly be cautious of that, and just like, it's always on my mind, especially with the super popular items. So I have read that, especially like Neverfulls from Louis Vuitton, there is so many fakes on Vestiaire Collective of Neverfulls or Speedies, and Chanel classic flaps. So basically the ultra popular bags that are also very much faked. So it kind of makes sense that those end up being on the platform as well. I personally haven't tried to buy a classic flap from Vestiaire Collective. I don't know if I would, to be honest, because that is where I hear most of the stories of quite many Chanel items in general, that there is many fakes moving around. And then Louis Vuitton, like Neverfull, then multi-pochette and pochette métis, like these type of bags that came with a rush and everyone wanted them. So they also came with a rush onto the fake market. So that, I think, is a really bad thing about Vestiaire, that there are fakes around. There, in some cases, you can see a listing that is clearly a fake. Like, it doesn't even look like the original. And I mean, there seems to be some type of process of when you add an item there to be sold, you need to add photos, and then someone does something to the photos to publish them. And apparently they do already at that stage have some kind of pre-screening of authentication. But let's be real here. Whoever is a professional person who handles like photographies, they probably are not a professional authenticator. They are like less of an authenticator than the non-authenticators that Vestiaire Collective has hired to do the authentication. So we can't really expect them to know, I guess. But yeah, so like the bad thing of that platform is that there are fakes. And then the ugly side of Vestiaire Collective. So it's not even enough that they have fakes. They do promise, though, that if something of their item ever turns out to be fake, that they will return the money. And with this, I have heard many stories. Some, actually, it has been very straightforward. They have proved the authentication from another authentication company, like it's not authentic. And then Vestiaire Collective has been like, yeah, okay, here's your money back and whatever. The ugly side of that platform is that in some cases, when a buyer has gone back to Vestiaire Collective saying that this item that I got is fake, and I have a document from an authentication company that says that it is not authentic. Vestiaire Collective is claiming that their authentication said that it's authentic, so they treat it as authentic. And what they have actually done is that they have asked the buyer to ship the item back. At that point, the buyer have been like, yeah, okay, they want it back, and then they're gonna give me back my money because they also investigate it again and so on. But Vestiaire Collective has been like, no, our authentication says it's authentic, and they have actually relisted that item on the buyer's profile to Vestiaire Collective, or then sold it under Vestiaire Collective's own profile that they have on the platform. This, I think, is like twisted on a whole nother level. So a buyer has got a fake item, And they reported back to Vestiaire Collective saying that it is a fake, here's a proof of it. Vestiaire Collective is like, yeah, okay, send it back to us and we'll examine. They get it and kind of like, yeah, no, we think it's authentic. So we're gonna list it under your profile. So someone else is gonna buy a fake item from you, pretty much. I mean, how is this even possible? And those people have really tried to argue with Vestiaire to take them off from their profile, because like it's under their name and it's like their profile, their reputation and all. I think this is like sick. Or then they are selling it under like Vestiaire Collective's own profile on the platform. And personally, I would stay away from Vestiaire Collective's own profile, to be honest. Or if they say that the item is located at Vestiaire Collective's like premises. Because in those cases, it usually says also express shipping. And it might be that those items are these like returned items. So someone has found them fake, but Vestiaire Collective doesn't see it that way and still sell them forward. This is a twisted thing, and this is like probably the only thing that's properly pushing me a bit from the platform. But I mean, I can't sit here and lie and say that I will not buy anything from them, because I clearly will. But I am very, very much careful of all of these things that we've just gone through. And it's not 100% guaranteed that I wouldn't receive a fake, even though I would like keep in mind of all of these things. But it's, there's still so much like potential and also like authentic items there. So it's more like where to navigate on the platform and just like be prepared to fight in case something happens. And that's why you should have like a credit card company or an afterpay company behind you. So then when you turn to them and be like, I got a fake item, they're gonna argue the case for you. So if you as a private person are gonna be like, yeah, this turned out fake, and then Vestiaire Collective is, yeah, okay, we think still it's authentic, so we're gonna sell it. So there probably is not much that you can do, but when, let's say, Visa or MasterCard is reaching them kind of like, we will not cover for fake items, it might be faster. Who knows? But there definitely is an ugly side of the platform. And I think it's good that this is also talked about. Whew. I think that ends my monologue of Vestiaire Collective, the good, bad, and the ugly, based on my personal experience and the knowledge that I have of that platform. I truly hope that this has been useful to someone who is maybe thinking that should Vestiaire Collective be trusted, or what are the risks with it. So hopefully this showed some light on those. But also I do want to like leave this on a positive note and repeat myself that I have always had a positive experience with that platform. So it doesn't mean that every item is fake, and so on. So just to be prepared to all, but also there are some very nice pre-owned items, and it's kind of nice to be able to join this kind of circular fashion where we don't need to buy everything new from the store, that we can actually, once we ourselves are not maybe using something at all, it's maybe time to kind of put forward and let someone else who enjoys it get it. And then at the same time, we can also get some amazing deals of pre-owned items and give them a new life, a new home, and use them, enjoy them. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next video. Bye.